Let's talk about the real. We're gonna get into why do men avoid dating single moms.
So mad at the single mums. Wasn't your mum a single mum? Because it's always the men that come from a single parent household that are mad. They're mad and they got so much chat and they hate women. They can't stand women and they treat women like shit. But wasn't that the same mum that raised you on her own? Where was your dad? And you don't...
Most men, although most men come from single parent households, we're not trying to date our mothers. I don't know why she would start off with that kind of energy. What man wants to date their parents?
You have no vim, you have no energy for the man that ran off and left you. Yeah, you have no energy, you have no chat for man, but you're sucking man's ass, not literally, but you idolize the man so much, men in general, but yet you're so fast to tear another woman down and kiki and laugh with next man about, you know, them tearing women down or whatever. It makes me sad because I know, do you know what, the mum that raised you must look at you and think, ugh, hideous. You look like you remind me of your father. That's what it's giving, because you're definitely your father's child. You're definitely your father's child and you're growing up to be just like him.
The dumbest thing a man can do is date a single mom, and I'm saying this as a single mom myself. The only exception to the rule is if the man has kids himself and he's a single dad. That's the only rule that is the exception.
I'm not gonna say that's the dumbest thing a man could do, but it's not something that you would typically advise a young man. Like, if I had a son that was growing up in modern day, I wouldn't tell him, hey, go after all the single mothers. Financially, it's just not the best investment when you consider raising a kid that's not your own and being a part of a broken family where you really have no control or authority about the surroundings, and it's gonna cost you double because the woman that you decide to be with is gonna expect you to take care of that child. You know, that's gonna have to come out of pocket, and it's not really your responsibility. So financially, it's not the best decision. Is it the dumbest thing? No, but just not the best decision to make, especially in modern day.
And I say this because, one, it's fucking stupid as a man to take on somebody else's kids when you don't have kids of your own. Now, do I think it makes women less valuable? No, I think that's a stupid rhetoric. But the idea that you're going to get emotionally attached to someone else's kids, and then if you break up and never fucking see them again, y'all are stupid. But not only that, it's like, as a single mom, I don't want to date somebody that doesn't have kids because he's not going to be in tune to automatically or naturally or organically be the dad. But also, if I didn't have my daughter, I wouldn't be out here trying to date a man with kids. Like, I get the logic behind it because I'm not going to be emotionally invested in somebody else's kids. Now, in my opinion, if he has kids and I have kids, then we're both equally risking the same thing if it doesn't work out, if that makes sense. Like, me as a single mom, I would never date someone with no kids. Like, so I don't know why women get so offended when men are like, oh, I don't date single moms. Like,
I'm gonna call cap. A single mom's best asset is a man with no kids, because a man with no kids has very limited responsibilities and more free time to assist you with whatever you got going on. Listen, man, I come from a single parent household. I know what the struggles were. I mean, not at the time as a kid. I didn't understand the struggles of my parents, my mom actually, but I understand it now as a fully grown man. So single mother, your greatest asset is being able to find a man with no children. That's a plus. So I'm calling cap on that one.
Totally get it as a single mom myself. There's too much risk and not enough reward. Okay, bye.
I think when you date a woman with kids, it's like forced polyamory, it's forced polygamy, because now you even have another man in your life that can dictate emotions and dictate policy with that woman. So for example, let's say me and this woman, we're gonna get ready to go to Hawaii. And me and her gonna pack our bags, and then her baby daddy call and say, hey, I'm not watching so-and-so, or I'm not gonna do this, or something happened. That man can change direction of a trip. He can change direction of her mood. There's times where I've seen it where, oh, I just got off on my baby daddy, I'm upset. Like, he can change things in your household. You could be talking about another man on a Friday night instead of you talking about what you guys are gonna get ready to do. So this person, like it or not, cool, we co-parent well, we don't co-parent well, still has access to your woman in certain ways. That's like, can you tolerate that? And a lot of women say, this man don't have access to me, we just co-parent. Yes, he does. He's going to be an active role. He's in the movie. He's in the show. He's a starring cast member until 20 years old, 21 years old. Can you handle that? Can your ego handle that?
Why would you want to handle that? Like, but I get it. That's not something you think about every day.
Basically, you're a high value man and you are too good for a single mother.
So in that particular video, you have a young, successful black man basically saying that he prefers not to date single mothers. And when he makes that position known, one of the women decides that she will not date him again because of that position. And then the two women on the panel proceed to shame this brother for taking that position. And when he tries to draw an analogy about the preferences that women have, they basically don't hear what he's saying. They basically miss the whole point of his discussion about preferences that women have. So I just want to take some time to share my quick thoughts about this. You know, first of all, there's nothing wrong with this brother having a preference for women who are not single mothers. He has every right to have that preference, just like a woman has a right to have a preference for, men that have certain traits, like a man.
You gotta love modern day women when they have like this perspective where you should take them as they come, absolved of all accountability and responsibility. How are you shaming a man with no children for not wanting to step up and be a father to a kid that's not his? How we've now created this narrative that we should shame those kind of men for having standards, especially when you look at the other sex and women have like these plethora of listings that most men can't even live up to. A lot of men don't even qualify for a lot of these women based off of some of their criterias. We don't shame them for that. We just kind of look at them as, damn, like, I'm a good dude, but since you got 10 things that you're looking for that equals to perfection, I guess I don't qualify. But God forbid that we set a standard or preferences for ourselves when we're just like, well, you know what? We don't want to date single mothers. Now instantly we get shamed? Very interesting.
Of a certain height or a certain income or whatever. Women have that right to have that preference, and that brother has his right to have a preference not to date single mothers. And there are legitimate reasons why a brother who's young, who has no children, may have that particular preference. And one of the reasons is that single mothers often have ties and bonds with the father to her children. She's in constant contact with this man who fathered her children. A lot of times the mother and the father have unresolved issues and drama that comes along with that. So a man has every right to opt out of that situation. Another thing is, in a lot of these situations, the man is taking on the burdens of fatherhood without any of the benefits of fatherhood, without any of the acknowledgement of fatherhood. So often a man will be providing for children that are not his, but at the same time, he won't be able to discipline the children. He will be constantly reminded that he's not.
Listen, it's very noble. Like, men that want to step up and be stepfathers to kids that aren't theirs. I believe every child deserves to have a father. But for the benefit of the kid wins. You know what I'm saying? But taking a step back to look at that situation, you build a connection. You become a father-like figure. And at any point, if this woman chooses to now leave you, she takes her kid with her. So that connection that you built is now gone. It's gone. And you have no say. You have no authority. You have no control. You're basically put in a simp-like position where it's just like, you sacrificed money, time, and effort, and you have nothing to show for it. It's a scary reality for a lot of men. And the thing is, we have to start holding women more accountable for the partners they choose to have kids with. I'm just a huge believer in, like, it starts with the men that these women choose to have kids with. And when you realize that, like, hey, that toxic dude or that bad dude that you always been attracted to just doesn't have the qualities of a father, we have to start looking at these women like, hey, this is the bed that you made. Unfortunately, this is the bed that you're gonna have to lay in.
Not the father of the children, and that he doesn't have father rights, even though he's taken on the financial burden of taking care of kids, and even the burden of being a mentor to those children. Another thing is, when these types of relationships end, not only does the man suffer emotionally from the ending of the relationship with the woman, he suffers from ending the relationship with the children, and the children suffer. So those are some of the reasons why a man has every right to decide not to date a single mother. In addition, a man wants to raise his own children and not somebody.
What's wrong with women with kids?
What's wrong with little Jimmy with freckles and the glasses?
He's not my type.
Not my type.
All
All I see is kids.
So what? What's wrong with that?
I'm out of here.
You don't like kids? No?
I love
you
kids.
Want a what? See? So
If they were mine.
So you want a woman that has no kids,
Yeah.
correct? Why?
Why not?
Before I get into this video, can I just
Why?
say that the thing that happens on social media in dating discourse where people essentially try to, I don't want to say coerce or beg, but haggle or debate people into being interested in them is very strange to me. If someone says someone is not their type, why do the next 15 minutes need to turn into a PR campaign as to why they should be? Unless someone is online saying derogatory things about who their type isn't, just let people date who they want to date. If so-and-so says such and such isn't their type after being prompted for the answer and they leave it at that, just leave it at that. Continuing, I now want to say, a lot of you need reality checks. And I don't mean in the way you think. This isn't going where you think it's going. And to avoid confusion, I will preface with this. We don't get to determine what someone else's objective value is, because it doesn't exist. We get to determine what we like or don't like, but we don't get to determine other people's objective value. A lot of you like to get on the internet and look at a fat girl or a short guy or people with children and say, what? They want to date models? They want to date athletes? They want to date actors? They want to date rich? How could they? They don't get that. They don't deserve that. You don't get to make that call, because at the end of the day, if they go out and meet those fantastical people and those fantastical people want to date them, it is what it is. If you want to have a conversation about likelihood and probability in dating competition, you're more than welcome to until you're blue in the face. But at the end of the day, your beliefs on who should get who and who can do what and who's a match for who and who deserves who are largely irrelevant. You are not a god. You don't get to decide that. But the reality check that is needed is that a lot of people delusion themselves into thinking that certain aspects of life won't change the dating pool for them, when they very obviously will. And then they get offended when someone points that out or even just alludes to a lack of interest due to those aspects. Someone with kids is not the same in the dating pool as someone without kids. Not from a value perspective, but from a baggage perspective. Kids come with the baggage of another ex-spouse involved in the relationship. And
the reason, and here's the thing, it's value, because what the common day rhetoric you hear is a woman loses value whenever they have children. And it's like, a lot of people cringe at that notion of value. But here's the thing. We have women every day that talk about how much they're worth. And put a price on, not wanting to settle because they know what they're worth. Hey, I'm not going to settle for that average man that makes $50K. I know what I'm worth. I'm not going to settle for the guy that's 5'8". I know what I'm worth. But then when it comes to having kids, all of a sudden it's like, how dare you tell me that my value dropped because I have children? Well, you were the one that put a price tag on yourself in the first place. So why can't we reevaluate your value, sis? When you knew what you were worth 5 years ago when you were single, why do you think that you're worth more 5 years later with 3 kids?
a lot of y'all don't have healthy co-parenting dynamics. Kids come with the baggage of raising a kid. Kids come with the baggage of hoping the kid gets along with you, having to plan your interactions and dates around the kid, etc., etc., etc. It makes sense
really
that there
thought
are
about
people who don't want to deal with that. And that isn't a personal attack, nor are they bad people, nor are you lesser. It's just an aspect of life. We build lives for ourselves, and this is why the choices we make are important, especially if we have specific life goals or wants, because those choices will impact the lives we build, what we have access to, and sometimes who. Our lives, based largely on our decisions, will create circumstances that other people get to look at and decide if they want to be involved with, because it will impact their life. The best thing y'all can do outside of intentional decision making, but that's more general, is stop taking it personally, unless of course they say something cruel or derogatory when someone's not interested, and just find someone who is.
Listen, when it comes to this topic, men are always going to shame you. They're going to shame you for leaving. They're going to shame you for staying. They're going to shame you for having high standards. They're going to shame you for having low standards. Because not only is the perspective they have not objective, but it's not to benefit you. It's to benefit them. They are going to tell you your standards are too high because if you lower them, then they get a chance. They are going to tell you you should never leave your partner because then they get away with being ain't shit partners who are never left. They are going to tell you your standards are too low in the face of mistreatment so they can say you should have picked a better man and they get off scot-free for how they behave or how other men behave. Stop listening to them. They are not on your side.
Raised by a single mother, which is profound for me to think that a single mother's not good enough for you.
Now, we could all be completely honest for once. Who actually wants to be with anybody with kids, let alone somebody that has no kids at all? Because unlike many single parents, these people put in effort to make sure that they took preventative measures so they would not have any kids that they were not ready for. So why would they want to take on the responsibility of somebody else's? Because even me being a single mother, if my son came up to me and told me that he was dating a woman with kids, we would definitely be having a talk. And not just because I know what comes along with dating a single mother, I also know that a lot of women are not as fortunate as I was when it came to having kids. Some of y'all are looking for help and not a partner. Some of y'all got baby daddy drama. I don't want my son being in danger with your baby daddy. Some of y'all's lives are completely unorganized and you still trying to learn how to be a mama. I don't want my son being in the midst of that. And I know
I always say we control our choices. We do not control our consequences. All these are valid points. Yo, when you choose to have kids, you understand the responsibilities that come with that. That is a life sentence. And not everybody's willing to sign up for it. Will you find that, like, listen, man, 1% of guys that's like, oh, you have kids, no problem. That don't have kids of their own. Yo, if you could find that guy, happy to you. I'm not a hater. Best of wishes. But the likelihood of you finding that, that's why it's so crucial for you to pick and vet and choose the right man to have a child with, because if that does not go right, boy, does reality have a cold stone waiting for you, bro. Boy, does it. And I don't wish single parenting on anybody. I don't. You know what I'm saying? So
no, it don't feel good to hear, but everybody makes their own choices and have to deal with their own consequences. And I'm not saying that just because you're a single mother that nobody's gonna want you. I know that to be false for myself. My mom had 5 kids after my dad passed away, and the first guy that she dated, they got married 8 months later and been married for 15 years. But if you keep internalizing what these men are saying online and allowing them to dictate your emotions and feelings, then no, you're not going to have nobody. At least nobody worth having. I would rather a man tell me that he's not interested in a single mother versus him sleeping with me and then bouncing thereafter. But one of the hardest things in life is acceptance. And once you start accepting that some people may not want you, you'll begin accepting the people that do. Peace.
When a woman has a child, there's no upside for you as a man coming in and taking care of that child, because if you get in a relationship with that girl, what ends up happening is you have to support that child that isn't yours. You build a bond and attachment with that child, and then let's say the girl breaks up with you, it's going to hurt.
What do you mean by support?
When the man gets in a relationship with you, he's not just getting in a relationship with you, he's going to have to take that child on at some point.
100%.
So my point is that when he takes you on and that child, he's going to bear responsibility for that child as well. But the problem is that he's not going to have the same authority. He won't be able to discipline that child the way he wants because it's not his kid. So he has responsibility without authority. Responsibility without authority is slavery. So he ends up having to take care of that kid. Let's say y'all break up. Now he loses access to that kid, which he ended up developing a bond with, and he loses you. So it's going to hurt 2-3 times more. The stepdaddy game is an L for most guys.
Most men prefer women without kids.
And I don't even necessarily agree with everything Fresh and Fit has to offer, especially with some of the takes that Myron has. But that take, if we're just looking at that take alone, is spot on. You know, responsibility without any authority is diabolical. And a lot of times modern day women look at Russell Wilson and be like, yo, where's my Russell Wilson? Oh, the nice guy? Russell Wilson so happens to be rich. That's why I stopped judging Russell Wilson when he jumped into that situation with Ciara when she had, like, I believe 1 or 2 kids before she met him. I don't judge everybody the same way, especially when you're financially set. Yeah, there's no reason for me to even equate you to the modern day person. But again, responsibility without authority is diabolical.
Most men prefer women without kids, but just for the sake of the argument, let's say we have a guy with no kids. Let's say we have 2 girls who are exactly the same looks-wise, personality-wise, etc., and one of them has a kid, one of them doesn't. It's simple math. It's because most men don't want to deal with the burden of someone else's child. Most men want to start their own family. That if I'm going to have this financial burden, I'd rather it be my kid, right? Because I really don't have a fucking choice. You see, most men already complain about child support. Now, you think that a girl with a kid that's not even his child, that men are not gonna feel some type of way about that? Of course they are.
That's a good point.
Now, men will definitely date women with kids for sure. I mean, I would. You know what I'm saying? But the point I'm trying to make is this: if I have a choice to date a girl who's a baddie with no kid, I'm absolutely picking her number one.
And that's a valid point. Most men do have a problem with paying child support for a kid that belongs to them. Imagine having to pay and support a child that doesn't belong to you. He belongs to another man, but yet you're responsible for him. That's the problem that single mothers face today. That harsh reality where a man will still date you. I've seen a lot of beautiful, bad, single mothers out there. Lord, you know what I'm saying? Some of these women look like, what was birth? You know what I mean? You ever seen a single mother out there with their body and just say, yo, where the hell did this child come from? Where was the exit? I can't see nothing wrong with you. But the problem is keeping them. The aspect, the conversation that we're speaking about is commitment. Can you get them? I'm pretty sure you can. The real question is, can you keep them?
Choice to date a girl who's a baddie with no kid, I'm absolutely picking her number one over a girl with a kid. It's just facts, you know? It's just how men think. We want to start a family. We want to give a girl her first kid.
Ask for another date with him. What was the turn on?
Specifically, the turnoff was when I asked that question about would you date a single mother? And Jacoby, you proceeded to tell me that basically you're a high value man and you are too good for a single mother. However, you did also tell me that you were raised by a single mother, which is profound for me to think that a single mother's not good enough for you, but it's good enough for a woman to raise you. That's unfair.
That's diabolical. Like, what? Someone that was raised from a single mother doesn't grow up wanting to be in that situation, because when you grow up in that household, you see the difficulties that mom has to go through. You see the challenges that mom faces every single day. The mental struggles, the financial struggles, the not having enough time, the not being able to have enough rest, not being able to get the things that child wants. So yes, you can come from a single parent household and not want to commit to one yourself. Why? And to judge a man based off his preference when he does not want to take care of a child that doesn't belong to him, and we're shaming high value men that don't want to take on your responsibilities as a mother just because we come from single parent households. That's what we're talking about, which makes no sense if you really try to compare and contrast. Like, how do I come from a single parent household and I should just accept a single mom? When growing up, nobody accepted my mother when she was single. Why should I now go to accept you because you're single with a child?
And it's very insensitive to women out there who have children.
All right, so just because it's a cycle, I wanted to continue?
It doesn't have to continue.
So what I'm saying is that
it's more about, why would you cut off and say that single women are not on the same level?
What you're supposed to learn from is history. So
what's that got to do with it?
Now, if he had a child and made that statement, then you can feel some kind of way, because that would be a bit hypocritical. And maybe he should have some compassion for single mothers. And maybe he do.
He doesn't have to.
But that doesn't mean he has to date a single parent because his mother was a single parent. That's unreasonable, because he is not his mother's fault. He should not have to endure what his mother went through. The goal is, wherever you have fallen short, you want your children to measure up. Whatever you have failed, you want your children to pass. You don't want your children to repeat your mistakes. You want your children to learn from your mistakes and apply them to their life so they can be better versions of you.
Valid points. All pretty valid, and it's interesting how like men can have a preference to not want to date single mothers and we get shamed for it, which we could care less. You know what I mean? If you're a single guy out there with no children of your own, but you're getting shamed for having a preference by single mothers, yo, it is what it is. I'm not gonna go back and forth with you. At the end of the day, my life is great. Okay, I'm only responsible for myself. You can shame me for my preference. It is what it is. I'm not even gonna play the tit for tat game where it's just like where women have preferences. We don't shame you guys, but the moment we have a preference, we have to be put underneath a microscope and judged. I'm not gonna play that game with you. At the end of the day, you get to choose and make decisions. You don't get to choose the consequences. And there's a harsh reality for women that are having kids out here by the wrong man. And a lot of these women think that there's a get out of jail free card, and it's not. Some of you guys are bad and you will continue to date other men because you're just sexually attractive. Great for you. I hope you keep yourself in shape. but it's the commitment aspect. Will that guy marry you? Because society is saying the stepfather role, a lot of responsibility, no authority. I'm gonna holler at you guys next video. Mamba out. Also, let me know in the comment section what you thought about this subject. Let's have a very interesting dialogue. I'm gone.